Good morning. How are you, Sebastian? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you doing?
Doing great.
What do volunteers usually do when they come in? Um,
Yeah, there's a lot. We have what we call program assistants that kind of get stuff in the Gampa ready for, the teachings and the teacher. And then we have greeters that are out in the lobby, kind of saying hello and welcoming people. We have people to come in and just kind of do a little bit of cleaning or tidying things up, from straightening cushions and chairs in the Gampa to doing, vacuuming the rugs and things out in the lobby. What's that, Andre? Yeah, Andre's contributing. Some volunteers come in and sit and wait. So, there's any number of things. Yeah, it takes, and then we have back there, we have our AV folks that run AV, the sound and the cameras and everything. So I run Zoom. So there's always things to do here. And then there's flowers, people will just come and drop off flowers, and I am not a flower person, so we need people that can, check the flowers on the
Yeah.
altar, make sure they have water, fresh water, and look good, and get rid of them if they're not looking good, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot. So if you ever want to come in and help, just, let me know, ping me. I'm at program.linda@kadampa-center.org.
Cool. I do want to come in and help. It's just a matter of
Awesome.
when. It's a bit far of a drive,
Yeah. Where do you live?
worth it.
Yeah.
I
Where do you,
live in Brown Summit,
where's that?
so uh it's like an hour and a half, an hour 40 away,
Okay.
but it's the
So
Dharma, so I'd come and do it.
yeah. Which direction from Raleigh? Are you south, north, what? West?
Northwest, I think.
Okay. Towards
Yeah.
Boone?
Like, do you know Hall River at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I live at the state park.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
What a
So
great place to be. Hi,
yeah, it's
Rainey.
pretty cool.
Hi, Paul. Hi,
Hey,
Peter.
we got a
Hi.
fellow Alamance County boy.
Yeah, what a beautiful area. Do you work in the park?
Yeah, I'm one of the educators. So
Oh, awesome.
hmm.
Awesome. I used to work at the Museum of Natural Sciences, and there was a guy that was doing an internship, and he went there, and I'm totally blanking on his name. I don't know if he's still there.
Probably not. I think it cycles out like every year, every 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
he was great. Yeah,
it's cool.
he was great. And then, yeah, he got a job out there and
Right.
left the museum. Yeah,
This
which
was it the
happens.
Science Center in Raleigh, or was it the one in, because I know there's one in Greensboro too.
Yeah, the one in Raleigh here. Yeah.
It's so cool
So
that
yeah,
like
if you get to
even in the
Raleigh,
Zoom people are talking.
then definitely take some time to hit the museum. If you haven't ever been, it's a worthwhile trip.
No,
All
I
right,
think
Venerable Amy should be coming momentarily. I am going to go over a few quick announcements for those of us who are here. So if you're on Zoom and you're able to leave your camera on, if at all possible, please leave it on. Venerable Amy does have a view. You can see that in her screen there. Just to the right of her throne, there's like a TV, so she sees everyone on Zoom, and it enables her to, kind of interact with you and include you as part of the the sangha or students that are here. If you can't leave it on, I get it. Sometimes there's like connection issues and stuff like that, especially if you live out in the country somewhere. Prostration. So normally with Geshe Gelik, he has always invited us for the 25 plus years that he's been here to prostrate with him. That's not a normal practice. So normally students wait for the teacher to prostrate, And then we prostrate after they have a seat. So we did that last night, we waited, but Venerable Amy did say that we could prostrate with her. So whatever you feel comfortable doing, if you want to prostrate with Venerable Amy, or you can wait, whatever you want to do. But she did invite us to prostrate with her. And then lunch today is going to be it's an hour and a half long, from 12:30 to 2. And so then the second half will be from 2 until 4 this afternoon. But if you're here on site, we do encourage you, if you have brought lunch, to stick around and we can hang out and chit chat about the teachings, get to know each other, have a little social time. And then if you do go off-site for lunch, make sure you're back here at least 10 or 15 minutes before we start back at 2 o'clock, so that we're here and ready and have our heads in the game for the next part. And then, let's see here, what else? I do want to thank all the volunteers that are helping out. Sebastian was just asking what volunteers do, and I went into a long discourse about that. So there's always plenty to do. So thanks to the volunteers that have signed up and are helping this weekend. And also thank you to our sponsors. So sponsors and donors help provide the financial means to hold teachings like this and to bring visiting teachers here, as well as keep the lights on and keep things running at our center. So if you're able to make a financial contribution, of course, that's a practice in generosity, which is one of the 6 perfections, and it does make a strong connection to the teacher and also to having teachers in the future, as well as financial means in the future. So there's so many good things about being generous in different ways, from volunteering to giving financially if you can. Sorry, my phone just dinged. And then I think that's it. So yeah, thank you to our sponsors who have already contributed. We really greatly appreciate it. So Venerable Amy should be arriving any moment now. So just go ahead and prepare your mind for her arrival. We'll get started shortly. Thanks for your attention. Venerable Amy's arrived.
Not a problem. Okay. So, how did we wake up this morning? What, you woke up happy? And what are the waking thoughts? How did you use that time? Do we remember? The gratitude? Great. Great. I mean, having just, again, it's the beginning of, you're opening your eyes, you're just coming into consciousness. Also, for those of you online, right? So, really using that time, it's precious time, like we have to start orienting. This is the way we kind of orient ourselves right now. You're in challenging times. Samsara is a challenging situation, period. Period. It doesn't matter who's running the country. It's always challenging for people. So if I can remain positive, buoyant, for as much as I can, you can't always be that way. We know there's problems that happen. It's just natural. But at least I've got a little bit automated system happening of that space. So, the more you're habituated with that, and so look at what you are habituated with, right? What are the things you're habituated with? Are they helpful for you? Does that lend to a balanced mind, an open heart? Okay? There's a lot of other things people are doing, that so much, and I guess I just notice when I do return to, and because I'm traveling now as a teacher again, and I'm in so many different situations, and so just, can you orient yourself at times? Some people can't travel and they can't leave North Carolina. I understand, right? It's not possible due to finances, health, all kinds of things. So then the best thing is you've got a center here. So to keep orienting yourself around that kind of community, but check the influence. Is that a helpful influence on me? I remember when I first got into the Dharma, and then, when I was at a center in the area I was, there were several centers, or when I was in another situation where there wasn't Dharma. And you check yourself, how do I feel? How does it feel in those situations? So then what you do is you start constructing, because you're building your reality, you start constructing a little bit more time at the situations where I find it benefits me, where I'm finding that I'm a better person when I'm around these people. I tend to make better decisions, or I'm a little happier and lighter in this situation. And then when I'm around in this situation, I kind of get nervous and I say the wrong things and my mind is churning, and then you can just start adjusting. It's not like you rashly cut something out. You just start making adjustments. That's our Dharma practice. We're always making adjustments. Does it make sense? Possible? So make it possible for you. Make it realistic, your practice. Your practice and your life start to integrate. That's what you want to do, but it's a process. It's not just all of a sudden, all at once, like that. So, and some people have more time to practice and they see the benefits, so they're engaged a bit more. But there are people I know that get into the Dharma. You know people like this too. And they just dive off the high dive into the deep end, and they want to go really deeply, really quickly. A lot of those people don't stick around. Like they got their blast and then they can't sustain that level. So why not make it sustainable? And some people start with, a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night, and then they see the benefit, and then they decide to stretch it a bit. I've mentioned this many times before, so you know the drill like that. You know how it works. So, but we have to really, and I will say, I don't like to sugarcoat anything at this point. We don't have time. We don't have time for that. Get the sugar off of it. We really have to get to it now. You really, like, if you're not finding that you've got an established practice, or you're still wasting too much time with some of the other stuff, like, do it now. Do it now. And just looking around the room at the ages and online, thank you, some of you are younger, it's great, but a lot of us are not. There's not much time. And many of you that are older, right, people are dying that you know. Your peer group is going, and soon it's going to be you. So, no, I'm not kidding. I wake up with that every morning. So after and I mentioned this before, some of you know this, after your morning, the moment of succulence, wow, the body and mind is functioning. I'm waking up, and then we're going to do some reflection right now. But how wonderful all that is. And my next moments are, I'm going to die soon. And it really doesn't matter what age you are, it's coming soon. So am I ready? Am I ready for that situation? You know, and check, you can check a little bit when you want to look a little deeper, what's not ready in my life about that? You know, because you keep thinking it's out there, that death is coming way later, and, you know, and what will you have ready then? But what if it comes tomorrow? What will you have thought about, you know? And I was reading some more books on retreat about death, and one of them is that after you die, this bardo in between state, in the very beginning of that state, bardo means transition, in between, is what it means. It's in between two lives. So the life you just died from, this life that we're really attached to this life, aren't we? Really have a grip on people, stuff, whatever, and then you're headed to the next life, Tibetan Buddhism says. Okay? Not everyone believes that, but Tibetan Buddhism says. But in the beginning of that bardo stage, you're still a bit attached to the past life. And they even said you could witness and be around as a subtle body. Okay, so the people around don't see you, and the bardo being's body can move through walls. It's much more subtle. But the mind experiences, and you'll see people chucking out all your stuff. You know, all those photos you meticulously organized, and da-da-da-da-da, and all the book collection that you had, you know, and that lovely little vase in the corner with the flowers that nobody wants it. So that can be really painful for your mind in that experience. So if you can simplify some things now and make it really clear what you're doing, and then have less attachment to that stuff, it'll be more peaceful for your ride. So it's interesting, some of these. So it's something to think about. So let's put our minds in the right space. Let's set a good intention, motivation for our day. Some of you have already done that. That's fine. You can do it any time of the day. I like to recall my motivation. Oh, I know I'm going to forget. So before I forget, I don't need this record.
There is no sound.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's put ourselves in the right space, even if you've done this morning, and find a comfortable meditation posture. And again, we are talking about meditation this weekend as well as compassion, self-compassion, mindfulness. And it all starts here with a quiet stillness, and allow a normal, natural breath to start moving through your system. You could just deepen each inhalation, each exhalation. So Tibetan Buddhism is very practical, as you know. So if you're very distracted when you sit, then lightly close your eyes. And if you're drowsy, then have them slightly open where you let a little bit of light in. And start at the very top of your head, and let's scan down now again, 1 to 2 minutes. Keeping that breath going to open up space and noting any tension you may be holding in your body, perhaps your brow, neck and shoulders, your stomach, your lower back. Every exhalation, release that tension a little bit more as you scan down through your whole body, all the way down and out through your feet and toes. And as you bring your awareness to your breath, a normal, natural breath, and just trying to allow the mind to settle there for a moment. So some additional techniques to build concentration. So suddenly your energy gets pulled off to a distraction. You're thinking about something, and off it goes into a sweeping saga until you become aware and bring your mind back to the breath. So you can just label that thinking or a thought and back to the breath. So you just let it go and back to your object of concentration, the breath. Sometimes you get distracted by a sound. Label it. A sound or hearing. Simply hearing, that's all. Let it go and back to your object of concentration, the breath. So you can set a motivation before you start any of this if you like. Or you can allow this little relaxing space to unfold. Now we're ready to set a motivation. It's all okay. So don't stop yourself from getting practice going or doing some practice because you forget a certain order of things. It's just helpful to get the habit of sitting, of meditating. And slowly the other things will be added. But just get that habit, find that space in your home, and think about the advantages that we have in our lives. So let this wake you up to your practice. Think about, as traditionally as they say in our tradition, think about your precious human rebirth, or perfect human rebirth. Body and mind are functioning relatively well. Think about the community, the environment we live in, relatively safe, with relatively clean air and water, access to health care and medicines, decent food, we have decent shelter, we have heat in this season, incredible luxury for many on the planet, clothing. It's like a fortune right there that we have access to every day, easily. Please reflect on that more deeply and really drink it in. This precious human rebirth, these advantages that you live with every day. And if you'd like, imagine that drop of gratitude melting into your crown, moving all around your body, all the way even down to a subtle level, touching all the cells, all the minute particles. This deep appreciation. And let it sift through all your mental activity, all the thoughts, feelings, experiences. So the body and mind soaked with this appreciation for your precious human life. And think about all the other circumstances of this life. Perhaps good family and friends, a job that you like, some money in the bank, can take holidays, you have a vehicle you like to drive, able to go to a restaurant once in a while and eat what you like to eat. On and on. Get creative. And for some of you, you live near this center or a center, or you're involved with the center. Fantastic opportunity. There's a community there of caring people. wonderful geshis there, some nuns affiliated with the center, beautiful stupa, and on and on. Amazing opportunity. And to have received precious teachings from authentic teachers over the years. Again, this is an incredible opportunity you've created. So keep the mind focused there, really appreciating, letting it soak through your skin and bones. This is your precious life. This is your precious life. What is the problem when you have a life like this? So this world right now that you live in, you've made contact with Buddha's teachings. So what an advantage that a Buddha has lived historically in our time, in our world system, and taught the entire path to enlightenment. That's Shakyamuni Buddha. And that exists right now. So even though the Buddha lived 2,600 years ago, those teachings remain authentic. And he also taught the entire path to enlightenment, including Tantra. So that won't happen in other eons. Maitreya Buddha, the next Buddha coming, doesn't teach Tantra, the quick path to enlightenment. But right now, we have everything. We have it all. So what's the problem? And you've created this life for yourself. So I'd like you to bring up to mind as you do this exercise, when negative thoughts about yourself arise, think of one of those negative thoughts. And now think about your precious human rebirth that you've just been reflecting on. And now how does the negative thought look? Still as strong? So go back and think of some of the qualities again of your precious human rebirth. Let it envelop you with that appreciation. So this situation is quickly passing away, and soon we're going to die. So some reflection on death and impermanence. Let's focus on that for a moment. Everything changes. Everything is changing right now as we're sitting here, feeling as if nothing's changing, as if the room, the walls, the floor is solid. It's changing every moment. Configuration of molecules moving around. Some more slowly, with more solid things, some more quickly in the space of air. Get a sense of that changing nature of your body and mind, of your external reality. Look how the thoughts fly through, one after another, after another, after another. Fluctuations of the consciousness. But everything else is changing as well. Changing to death. Impermanence to death. And death's just another change, another transition. Are you ready? If you got a message, it was coming tomorrow, how would you like to be today? How would you like to be today? Right now? Can you automatically be that way now? Or do you need more practice so that that arises? That arises more and more, that state of mind, that state of being. So are you manifesting yourself the way you would like to be? Is there meaning in your life? How you would like it to be? Because that can lend to a very peaceful death and transition. So what do you need to do to direct more energy into that life you'd like to lead? What do you need to do? Can you visualize a realistic way to do it? Rehearse that in your mind right now. So imagine yourself doing some of those things right now. So make a plan. Make a realistic plan that starts now. It doesn't start next week and next Christmas and after I get the job and after my kid gets off to do this. Start it now. There's no time to waste anymore. We've wasted enough time, haven't we? And so in reflecting on precious human rebirth, this wonderful situation we've created for ourselves, and knowing it is fleeting, how would we like to be right now? And think about proceeding. We have every perfect opportunity to work with our minds, to apply some techniques we learn in courses, and apply those in our lives right now so we can move along a path to full awakening, to becoming a Buddha. But that's not the end here, that's not the goal. The goal is not to become enlightened, the goal is to become enlightened so we can benefit all living beings perfectly, so we can help all living beings, all sentient beings, all beings with a consciousness who are lost, just like us, confused, struggling. That's the point. And as a Buddha, you do it perfectly and unlimitedly, with full capacity, with joy and bliss in your heart and mind. That's where we're going. So if you like that idea, take a moment and deepen that motivation in your heart and mind for all the activities of this day. So please relax and slowly open your eyes. So this seems so basic, some of the basics. This is your daily practice. So I rolled that out longer. You know, sometimes I do that in my first 5 minutes waking up in bed while I'm in bed. I can reduce it to 5 minutes. So again, it depends on your time you adjust. Welcome. Lovely to see you. Okay, so you adjust things according to your life, your work, family, obligations, whatever, health issues. It can always be adjusted. It can be, your practice can be contracted a little bit. When I'm on the road, obviously, it's different for me than when I'm home and have a space of the day, more time in the day, versus when I'm on retreat, have more time. So that's how you learn when you mature your practice. Many of you know that already. You're already doing that. But I just wanted to do it longer to give you, so I don't know the feeling when you brought up the negative thought about yourself, that negative mind speak, okay? But then you're holding on one part of your mind, precious human rebirth. How is the negative speak working for you then? Any observations? Notice any difference? Yes.
It was like an echo. Geshe has introduced us to that it's not permanent and it's an echo, and also it's unnecessary in terms of what I have.
Yep. Right. Right. And also, you can also poke at it, the negative mind speak. So it can start with negative mind speak about yourself. Then it goes out, negative mind speak about others. Negative images of others, right? Ask yourself, is it accurate? The negative mind speak about yourself. Is it accurate? Is it accurate? I'm asking any of you, is it accurate? It's usually not accurate, is it? And I don't know, everybody has their own negative talk. Some people don't have that at all. So there's a very dear monk friend of mine, Westerner, and we were at a center for a while together. He was the teacher there, and I was running the center many years ago, and I noticed a quality about him, being around him every day and things, and that he didn't, number one, he didn't really focus or care what other people thought about him. That wasn't a factor in his mind. And then if somebody mentioned something, I mean, there really wasn't much negative about him, but if somebody said something, he wasn't really affected by it. And his own demeanor, he didn't have those voices and thoughts. And so one time we were talking, about, because we were living in a community and we could see how people were so affected by what other people thought and said, and that's common. That's common. And then I turned to him and I said, you don't really seem to have that, from what I can see. And I said, so what, like I was curious, like how he was raised, and then he just turned to me very simply and he said, I meditate on precious human rebirth. Like it really made a thing for me, because I went, man, I don't think I'm doing that enough. This is many years ago, but that's honestly, that's the key. Like he had enough sensible self-esteem. This isn't about I'm so great, I made a great life for myself, I'm the best. It's sensible. It's reality. It's, as Lama Yeshe would say, touching reality. That you're balanced, that you're okay. I'm a human, I make mistakes. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm not intending to make mistakes. I don't want to make more mistakes. I certainly don't want to hurt anyone or myself. But that's human nature. Sometimes I blow it because I'm confused. I don't have a direct perception of emptiness. So I misknow, K-N-O-W, I misknow stuff. And that gets you into situations. Okay, I'm doing my best. And if I know I'm doing my best, and I really do, why am I going to worry about it? You don't like me? I can't worry about that. I'm sorry, I'm doing this is the best, this is what I've got. You don't like it? Okay, I'm sorry. Nothing, But I'm the same before I knew you didn't like me. I'm the same person. So that's another thing to check. You come to a meeting, you're at work, you're with your family gathering, whatever, and you're happy and everything was great, and I've got my project and I'm presenting, and then after that you find out somebody said something negative about you. Then you're all toppled. But you're the same person you were before you heard it as to after. So we don't need to let it affect ourselves like that, especially if you reflect again and again, I have a precious human rebirth. I have all these situations. Traditionally in Tibetan Buddhism, how many situations make up a precious human rebirth? No, nobody's hit it yet. How many situations? There's 10, what? 10, they're divided into that. 10 is one. Yeah, freedoms and richnesses. There's 10 richnesses or endowments. And what are how many freedoms? Come on, you guys. This is 8. Okay, you got 18 situations. Thank you. Okay? Just these two know that? The rest of you don't, you got, this is the stuff you need to learn, but this is basic. This is basic, so it's okay. You start there, but there's 18 situations traditionally that make up a precious human rebirth, according to this tradition. 8 freedoms, 8 situations you're free from, 10 endowments, 10 things you have divided into personal endowments, environmental endowments. They're related to each other. They're related to each other. I'll give you an example. Like, you're free from being in a hell realm. You're free from being an animal. You're free from being in what they call a barbaric society. So some of the endowments relate to you live in what's called a central country, and that means a country where we can practice Dharma, can study and practice Dharma freely. There are countries on the planet right now you can't do that. It's illegal. That's not the situation you set up with. Now, I asked a Geshe once, or one of the Rinpoches, we were talking about precious rebirth. So you're free from living in or also being in a central country is a freedom from being in a barbaric society. And I said to him, personally for me, I don't really feel like we got that one fully. And he said, you're right. He said, yeah, you're right. It's true. We have war on the planet. And many other things, even in this peaceful, idyllic area of Cary, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, there's stuff that happens like that seems kind of barbaric. Like that. I was recently going past North Philadelphia, where I live in Philadelphia, and North Philadelphia, I just feel, these people, I can't say it's like Gaza, but parts of it appear to be that way. It's very heavy, dangerous, a lot of people trying to raise children there, and your kid goes outside to go to school and gets shot in the head just because they're in the path of a bullet, like that. That's parts of North Philadelphia are like that. So it's just so sad for those people. So that's on our planet. That's like, not far from where I live, like that. It's a shame. And you have areas, here and things like that. Or you have what happened late September is a hurricane came through, devastated parts of North Carolina, Georgia. It's going to take years for people to recover from that we're right in the middle of it. That's barbaric, the weather patterns and different things like that also. Landslides, fires, those kind of things. It makes it like a war zone a little bit, okay? So, but there's 18 situations. Please learn those situations traditionally, but what I was giving you was unconventional. Reflect, clean air, clean water. You have access to wonderful public education. We have some decent health care you can access, that you can get care of. We have medicines that are strong, that take care of you, that do the job they're supposed to do. Not old and expired and in a hot area where there's certain places. In India, they have these little pharmacies. Some of them are now, glass-fronted buildings, locked and things like that, but some of them are little shacks. You buy your things, it's not air-conditioned. In summer, they're selling medicine that is, it's boiling hot every day. And I remember my cousin, who was a doctor at the embassy in Delhi for a few years, and he took me near his house and he said, here's where you get this stuff. And the medicines are decent in India. Just look at the expiration date. You can save a ton of money. But he took me to this place and he said, if you want to get this stuff, and he said, go to the one on the left, the little hut, because it had an air conditioner in the back. Even though the front was all open, but at least they tried to keep it cooler in the summer. And that place is still there. Years later, I just was there the other day, the same guy. I said, oh, hello, and so you try. So again, you need to keep doing that. If that's one of your issues of low self-esteem and feeling less than you are, you have a precious human rebirth and you have Buddha nature is another thing. So everyone with a mind has Buddha nature. Doesn't mean you're a Buddha, okay? It means you have potential to be a Buddha. There's a seed in you of fundamental goodness, get that, fundamental goodness, okay, that will develop with the right watering, the right fertilizer, the right sunlight. You do that through your practice, your study, your reading, your participation, okay, your meditation, and eventually you become a Buddha. And everyone in this room has that, okay? So all these, the President of the United States has that, has Buddha nature. All the cabinet, all the different secretaries, all the people that you hate and you say that, and I don't like this, and I don't like that, and they all have Buddha nature just like you. We're all the same that way. All of that quality. And it also means, and this is where you say in challenging times, what do we do? Geshe-la's probably been talking about this all the time on Sundays, right? You have your Sunday discussion groups and talk, is all these beings have Buddha nature, so constantly showing when you have challenging times, we have to keep layering that onto it. that they have Buddha nature. Especially the person you really don't like has Buddha nature, has a potential. And here's the thing, and this is hard for a lot of people. I firmly believe in this. They are fundamentally good. That's what Buddhism says. They're fundamentally good. Not that there's original sin and that they screwed up and they're bad. They're fundamentally good in Buddhism. It's a big difference. Fundamentally good. Now, you say, but the manifestation I'm seeing doesn't seem to be fundamentally good. The manifestation I'm seeing on the news or that I'm reading about the thing. And so people have veils of obscuration covering their Buddha nature, right? We have that. You have friends. Some of them have much more bodhicitta than other people, right? Some are much more selfless. Some are a little bit more self-absorbed, right? Our family, our friends, we see people, the whole range, right? It's just those with a little bit more self-absorption, a little bit more selfish, a little bit more veils of obscuration over their Buddha nature. Yeah. So you see people on the planet who seem to do really horrible things to other people. Murderers, extortionists, terrorists, that's what we label, okay? But fundamentally good. Just something's gone, incredible confusion, incredibly lost, a lot of people are, and as a result, they make the wrong decisions. They choose the wrong decisions. That's all that's going on. So I find that really helps me constantly keep my mind balanced and buoyant, because I there's sadness. I'm not going to say I don't feel sad sometimes, that it's such a shame. Wow, they're so confused. How could, you just want to look at the situation in Gaza. A tragic situation of utter confusion on both sides. Complexity, it's amazingly deep kind of situation for centuries. This isn't some new thing that popped up. Just people caught up. And so think about, what am I caught up with in my circle of life? We're all caught up in something. And the main thing we have going that we're caught up in, the main confusion is we've got ignorance, anger, and attachment. 3 poisons. That's my circle. Ignorance, anger, and attachment. So sudden, and you're dizzy because you're just swimming around. First of all, I don't know. That's my ignorance. Miss-know reality. I don't have a direct perception of reality. Right? So from there, and then I misinterpret. We misinterpret all the time. The view is tainted. We're aware of that. We know that, but we don't know it here. Know it here, not here. So then start going around, I misinterpret, and then somebody rises up that interferes with my agenda, and it can be just a general agenda of the planet, what policies they're making, let's say, okay? And I disagree. You read something and then you disagree, okay? And then I disagree. So the I comes up stronger based on not having a direct perception of emptiness. So what that means is the I comes up, my sense of self, dominant, concrete, existing for all time, with its own nature, inherently existent. Doesn't exist that way. It's a mistake. But I don't know that. So then I disagree, then you have a friend that agrees with you, and then we disagree. We're stronger now. And we're right. We're right. That way is wrong. Doesn't exist that way. Doesn't exist that way at all. And again, you can just see from the past election, and I don't care who you voted for, it doesn't matter. We all have different views in here, right? But you have this election, and so we make we project concrete images onto these people that ran. Let's say that run for president. We project very strong images on them, inherently existent images. That's a mistake, okay? And the way we know it's a mistake, so one person wins the election. One person wins the election, right? And then you impute things on him. Good, bad, whatever. There's no inherently good or bad there. And the reason is because these people feel one way about this person, and these people have a totally different experience, and they think it's great. Delighted. Like that. So how can there be any inherent notion of evilness on this person or badness or whatever? It's coming from your mind. You have a certain thing that you've created in your mind that causes you to see the world in a certain way. Is that the right way? Can't say. That's just your view. But again, if you want to go back to bodhicitta, this is the motivation we just said. If you want to go back to bodhicitta, that is the basis of Tibetan Buddhism. That's why we're here. Most of you probably came to the center because I think deep down, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you want to help people. You want to be good, you want to be kind, you want to be better than you are, and you'd like to use that maybe to help people, maybe to make, as we would say, a better world. Great. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so there's people that will disagree of how you want to make a better world, and they have a different view of how they want to make a better world, what they think is the way to do it. Because there's no inherently better world out there. Okay? But we can just keep helping people. If you're committed to continuing to help people, well, there's so many sentient beings that need help. So if you keep that as the premise, keep your eyes open, try to wake yourself up as much as you can with clarity, right? Then you just keep helping. You keep and while you're working on your mind, okay? But to keep that balance and to keep reminding yourself that I get confused by that circle of the ignorance, the hatred, and the desire. So then someone interferes with what I think is the right view, but that's only my view. I can't insist. Then hatred arises. You interfere with that. Then these people that agree with me, well, then I have attachment. These are the good people. This is the right way. That's how we go through life. I mean, it's broken down. It's that simple on one level. So why do we get upset? You know, when I kept saying in Precious Human Rebirth, you go through that, and it's nice to go through that meditation slowly. And if you have an issue about the negative stories about yourself, that's a meditation you should be doing. Minimum 15 minutes a day. Do that for a while. Do that for a couple of months. You know, so Lama Zopa Rinpoche, some people, before Rinpoche passed, the grace of them, they decided to ask Rinpoche for life practice. Some of you may be in here that got life practice from Rinpoche. And eventually it was streamlined and somewhat standardized, because in the old days, you'd have an interview with Rinpoche, right? And you'd go and you'd have a meeting, and, you know, maybe you'd get an hour if that would, you know, but you'd often bring in a notepad. In the old days, we used to record it. I remember once I recorded on a cassette, you know, the old Walkman I had, because Rinpoche gives so much things, and you didn't want to miss it, and you'd play it again and again. But some people would go in, but it's good to have specific questions when you ask a teacher. Specific questions. And what I'll do is we go to 12:30, is that right? 12:30. So do we need like a 10-minute pee-pee break at some point? We'll take a little stretch. Okay, we'll do that in a little moment, and maybe a little while. But we'll take a break. So people would go in, but it's better when you ask a teacher is be very clear about what you want to ask. It's much easier for a teacher to steer a moving vehicle than you going in and sitting down. What should I do? Like, it's better for the teacher to know what you're interested. What practices do you like doing? What are you doing? And you keep it brief. But so I go in with a few things of this is what I'm thinking to do. This is the kind of retreat I want to do. Usually it was about the center. I was running a center, so it was always, this is what we're doing at the center, and Rinpoche would want to hear about that. But Rinpoche would give advice. So eventually, in the beginning, you'd be scribbling down, you know, and so now everything, the practices of Nundro practices, which are preliminary practices, Nundro practice, that's what it means, preliminary practices, and they're practices that sweep away negativities, negative karma, and it helps us accumulate positive conditions to practice. So that's what most of us end up doing in this life. You're doing these, working on these practices, many interesting practices you can do, Nundro. And Rinpoche would tell you what to do, and then you'd be scribbling down, and there weren't really instructions, and you'd have to go ask another student. Anyway, they're all practice books now, of all these Nundro, exactly how to do it. Beautiful practice booklets you download from the FPMT shop, okay? So then Rinpoche would give specific advice for each person, designed specifically for each individual. And then you'd scribble down, he'd have a motivation, and he'd talk about the Lam Rim, Lam Rim meditation. So eventually they standardized it, because some of the motivation, all that was the same. And it's brilliant. And people would bring me their pages and say, okay, I got this from Rinpoche. Like, what do I do? How do I do this? And so what it would have is the motivation, pages sometimes a motivation, but there'd be blank lines because Rinpoche will have checked the specific practices just for you, even if he never met you. So if you have that faith that this was a highly realized being, there's people, and so some people bring me their practices, what do I do? And there were always pages of Lam Rim meditation. And Rinpoche would split it up. And he'd say to some people, 3 months on bodhicitta, 3 months on emptiness, 3 months on the lower scope of the Lam Rim, 3 months on middle scope of the Lam Rim. So there's the whole Lam Rim, divided into a year. And then you would have to set up how you do. So some of them would ask me, well, how do I divide this up? And then I give them references. Use this outline, use this book, use this. But they have to do the work to divide it up, because then you learn more. You learn more of what you really need to meditate on the Lam Rim. And there's analytical meditation on the Lam Rim that you'd be doing for those really ardent every day. Could be 15, 20 minutes a day, but you're familiarizing, soaking your mind, and Precious Human Rebirth is the beginning. Okay? So think about in your own life, am I doing any of that? Am I that familiar with the Lam Rim? I asked about the 18 situations. It didn't seem like many people here knew. This is the beginning. But this is realistically and practically what cuts your negative mind speak, your negative image about yourself, which creates you then to feel more afraid, more panicked now, more challenged by what's going on. And if you feel good, you just keep getting on with your work. There's people to help. I'm going to, for me to be constantly like, oh my God, oh, woe is me. Why is this happening? Why do I live in a world system with war and poverty and terrible leaders, and they're infringing on our freedom? And I just get to work. I just do what I need to do. And so some of the things we can do and it's individual. But for me, it starts with practice. I have to first take care of my mind. That's number one. Take care of my mind. And there's many ways to do it. And I'll integrate it, and I'll keep repeating this. The first is to get that meditation practice happening. And you start slowly and learn the right way to do it. I just gave you a nice walk, and you need some relaxation. Settle a little bit on the breath. Have a good motivation. Essential is the motivation. It's essential. And keep that motivation going through the day. You lose track of the day, and suddenly the day's like this. It's sideways. Happens all the time, right? Something went off and something didn't work, and now you're like not happy. Okay? What was the motivation? Oh, right. I signed up this morning in my mind is I was going to try to spend the day as much as possible and direct all the energy and all the activities I do with my body, speech, and mind today to something positive and bright that will help me get enlightened quickly so I can benefit all living beings. And again, put it into your own words, but that's the essence, right? It's that simple. That was really simple. Boom. I just suddenly rekindled that, and now I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, right, okay. Okay, I just had a little moment, a little trip, just faltered, but now I'm back, I'm redirected. Do that all day long. All day long, I consider that motivation. Come back to it, but we forget. That's okay. And then you have an evening practice. A lot of people do morning a little bit, all their activities of the day, jammed in. Then evening, they come back and they go, motivation. Oh, I never thought about it again. That's okay. That's normal. Okay, so then right there, how's my motivation now for my evening practice? And how did the day go? How did the day go? And if you want to look at the end of your day, how did the day go? Okay, so first, how did the day go? The first thing that comes to mind is everything we did wrong, right? Everything that didn't go well. No. The first thing you want to do is, how did the day go? What went well? What did you do well? There's many things. So again, if low self-esteem and negative mind talk is your thing, you have to focus also at the end of the day on what went well. And you have to do it again and again. What went well? There's many things you do well. Why are you not focused on it? But you make one mistake and you obsess about that for a month. So you're trying to rebalance that in your mind. We're going to rebalance that in your mind. That's why people get more fearful now and more, oh my God, this is, So it's because you're not balanced yourself. So slowly it's like, give yourself some positive airtime of all the things. You might be a really good son or daughter. Maybe you made some mistakes and you had a fight with your father at one point or your mother. All right, But generally, at our age, some people are taking care of aging parents. Well, that's admirable. It doesn't mean you like it every moment, but you're showing up. You're trying. You take your parent to a medical appointment. You come over and you bring them groceries. You bring them flowers. You take them out to lunch. Fantastic. Take a moment and rejoice, appreciate yourself. Not in an egomaniacal way, not like I'm the greatest person on the planet, but, it was hard taking Dad out to lunch, but I'm really glad I did. He seemed to enjoy. That was his favorite lunch place. He seemed to enjoy that. I'm glad I made the time, Well, it was hard, but I'm glad we did it. Glad we did to the medical appointment. I'm glad, My dad, before he died, my dad was 6'5", very tall person. So for me, taking him out when he was in a wheelchair was really, really hard for me, doing it alone. And sometimes I'd manage to do it, with his help too, because he could try to help get him into the car, and he could use his arms, and he would try, and it was hard, but at the end I always was so glad, and it was great, and he loved getting out, so it was like, and I would just kind of gear up. I'm like, okay, we sometimes have harder things to do than easier things. So many things like that. You've been a good parent, perhaps. Maybe you're a good pet owner, and you've gotten an animal from a rescue or a shelter, like that. A good community member, a good neighbor. So many things you can appreciate yourself for, right? So that goes first in the evening. What went well today? And it can be something simple. I was really irritated by this person, but I spent a little bit more time listening to them when they went on that rant, even though I wasn't that interested and it was uncomfortable. But I kind of got my patience going and, okay, good enough. I tried, like that. And I didn't say that little snippy thing I wanted to say to them. I didn't say that. Right? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So those are the kind of things first. And then I'm going to have a look, not too heavily, at what didn't go well. And then if you can take a moment, at some practice later in the day, take a moment to look at why didn't it go well? Like, what was my underlying motivation? What was I feeling? What was my experience? Because you can notice triggers around you when it doesn't go well, when you feel more unbalanced. And I'll notice, it's funny, I'm always in that situation when that person is around. So I start noting that person is really not that healthy of an influence around me. So maybe I'll just limit my time if I know they're going to be there. Limit some time around those people. There's people like that. Can you lessen the time maybe that they're around? Or I notice that when I met people, when we meet at this place, it's too distracting. It's too noisy. I don't feel balanced there. I can't hear well there what was going on. So see if you can, in the future, choose a different place, a different meeting place. It's just reasonable. Slowly, you're starting to make those positive changes. Or that was when I opened my mouth and I snapped at somebody like that. Why? And if I go back under the underlying condition, because I was really tired. Because I was really tired. So note, like when I was running a couple of centers, I would notice that when I was really tired, I shouldn't be around people. It's just not a great space for me. So I would notice when I was really, really, really getting tired is I could excuse myself from, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna do my practice and go to bed. So thanks everybody. I'm gonna check. As long as everything was okay, I'm gonna take off like that. So you're growing your wisdom. You're growing a wisdom to know this isn't really going to be the safest place for me right now in this mode. I'm too tired, or I'm too, and just, just calmly remove yourself. Somebody shows up you really don't like and they push people's buttons. You don't need to storm out of the room, but it's just like, and running centers, hello, you're going to get those people all the time, right? They're like, the centers are magnets sometimes for that kind of energy, especially residential centers, because some people that are really disturbed, they've been thrown out of every other place. So they come to Buddhist centers because they feel like the Buddhists are the last ones. They'll keep me. They're compassionate. They'll take me in. Okay, so it doesn't mean you have to take everyone in. And our place, people were living there, so we had to restrict who could stay and who could stay there long term and who we were hiring, things like that. Okay, but occasionally, you have a guest or somebody that pushes your buttons, then you can just slowly greet, hello, I've got to go do this thing right now, and let somebody else can take care like that. So again, as you grow your wisdom, learning to keep that balance, because again, you return to that underlying motivation. I really, really want to help people. As a human, I'm limited. But I'm trying. I want to become a Buddha, because then I'm unlimited. That would be fantastic, because what I really want to do is I want to help as many beings as possible. And here's the catch that Lama Zopa Rinpoche said is, and his emphasis, some of you have heard this, all sentient beings. That was Rinpoche, all. So the emphasis is on all, not just the people I like, not just the people that I get along with, right? But it's all, okay? And especially other, the ones we make other. I really have a wonderful dance to do with them. Incredible, like that. Okay. Can we take 10-minute break? 10-minute break. So in the break time, let's not blah, blah about mundane stuff, about the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Let's not talk about that, okay? Go Birds, okay? But no, let's try to keep it to, and you can dialogue with one person, maybe meet a new person that you haven't met, of, what's your negative mind speak like? Does it happen for you? What do you use to deal with that? What can you tune up about your benefits and the positive stuff you do, think, and say? Are you giving enough airtime to that? If you're not, why not? What prevents you from doing that? How are the 3 poisons running you in circles in your life? Like that. So discuss a little bit of what we're talking about. And even the meditation this morning, precious human rebirth, going into death and impermanence, and then setting a motivation. And also, are some of you familiar enough with the Lam Rim? Are you doing some of those meditations or study? Because I know you offer a lot of programs here that go right through the Lam Rim, fantastic. So what could you step up a little bit to become more familiar? Okay, so 10 minutes. Thank you.
So we'll readjourn at 11:34.
Hmm.
Okay, everyone, if we can gather back to our seats.
I think I kind of freaked people out about the 8 freedoms and the 10 riches. People were coming up to me going, I think I know them, but again, this is, I'm giving, I teach the Lama Zopa Rinpoche path. That is my, he's my main teacher and the spiritual director of the center. So, but for me, it's also the Geshe's here, absolutely wonderful, and it's an authentic path that leads you to enlightenment. I'm absolutely convinced. So so that's why I'm saying in Rinpoche's style is to do analytical meditation on the Lam Rim every day, as well as that's part of the meditation, and that's what people aren't doing. So people wonder why their mind is, because the Lam Rim sorts it all. It's all there. But again, we learn as Westerners, so that's why I was giving it to you. You look at the 8 freedoms and 10 riches as traditionally, that I mentioned in the book. So I wanted to point out, and maybe Linda can send a link to the Lam Rim outlines by Venerable Annie Karen, who's at Kopan. She's taught these beginning intro courses for years. She's amazing. But she put together these, it's called Lam Rim outlines. So ideally, it's better to read some Lam Rim books, starting with the small, like The Essence of Nectar, or The Essential Nectar. It's the same book, just different names. Or The Essence of Refined Gold. Those are beginning Lam Rim books. And then you get familiar with the topics, like Precious Human Rebirth, Death and Impermanence, Refuge, Karma, suffering, that there's an end to the suffering, bodhicitta, emptiness. These are the topics, but it goes into details. Then you might pick up something called Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. It's bigger, more details. Okay? Then you might decide on the middle length Lam Rim. Great. They're all slightly different, but it's all the same philosophy. It's all the same topics, just giving you different details. Then, when you're ready, the Lam Rim Chenmo, the great treatise of the Lam Rim. Okay? Now, there's volumes that are translated into English. Okay? If that's too much for you and it's very dense and it's confusing, so again, the grace, Geshe Lundrup Sopa. Geshe Lundrup Sopa was a professor at the University of Wisconsin for 40 years. One of my gurus, one of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's gurus. He passed away. He was amazing. So what he did every summer, and he created a center near Madison, Wisconsin, called Deer Park. Okay? He created this center. They're still there teaching. And what he did is every summer, when he was off from being a professor from university teaching, he taught the Lam Rim Chenmo every summer. Then they translated it into English and made 5 volumes. It's brilliant. So it's a commentary on the Lam Rim Chenmo. It doesn't get any better than that. Because he knows us. 40 years he taught in the United States. So he knows our minds. The examples he gives are current, contemporary, Western examples of stuff. Right? So they have a preliminary, the first volume preliminaries. There's 1 volume just on karma. And they're big books. They probably have some here in the bookstore. I can't recommend them enough. Karma, there's 1 on bodhicitta. There's 1 on emptiness. There's 1 on shine, calm abiding. 5 volumes. So again, you slowly go through, and when you want, but it starts to unfold for you, and all your solutions to your problems are there. It's all there. But again, start small. So Annie Karen, even Lam Rim outlines, condensed kind of brief thing. People say, well, I don't really remember all the 8 freedoms. And she just lists them right there and then tells you how to meditate on it. Right? And then when you want to, there's other meditation books on them that you can go through. And then Rinpoche has, if you're familiar, Lam Rim Year. So it's obviously important. If all this stuff's rolled out about the Lam Rim, there must be a reason, okay? But nobody's doing it. Everybody's like, let me go back to my, New York Times spelling bee, or whatever people are doing. What was the woman next to me? You're sitting on a subway and you kind of just see people's computer games, whatever they're, Candy Crush, that's the one, Candy Crush. I see people, I'm like, you are ruining your mind. I'm sorry, but you're ruining your mind with that stuff. Like, so, but again, it's habit. You're habituated. You have a few minutes, so you open up instead, so there's somebody that posted something, and I really limit, again, I mentioned I was offline, the grace of being offline for close to 4 to 5 months this past year, okay? And I had some people I know really well went, "You're doing what?" Like they were freaked out for me. So, but they were seriously like, and in the beginning, the first 2 weeks of it, because I was jamming to get all the emails done and I had vacation messages, I'm offline I won't be contactable before November, can you, this was like in June, so I was online a lot to get all this work done in my schedule. And so the first 2 weeks of being offline, I noticed there was a little gripping. There was a little bit like, I need to check my email. And then slowly that goes, and also great because I was doing more meditation sessions and this practice that slowly, but since then when I've come back, and this was a thing I wanted to do, was I'm doing it less now because I saw the benefit of being offline and what I could do. So, but some people posted, instead of doing these mindless games, that there's little education snippets you can look at instead. So why not habituate yourself with that? FPMT has an online learning center, but part of it from the retreat that was hosted by Kadampa Center for 4 years, Light of the Path, some of you went to, outside Asheville. And so what we did is some of the teachers created these little online modules of some specific things. So you can, and they're quicker than a Discovering Buddhism course. So you can kind of go in and just go, it's like a little 15, 20-minute video of Rinpoche. There's questions and you can just have a look at that. So get used to that, making that a favorite on the phone where I have 15 minutes and I'll just at least have that go in, possibly. I don't know if that speaks to you. But again, so if they can make available, is that possible from Kadampa Center, the link to the Lamrim outlines, and maybe if there's links to the Essential Nectar where they could purchase that online or download it, because all of it you can download to your devices. That's a beginning Lamrim book. The second would be The Essence of Refined Gold. And then the next would be Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. And then I would recommend the Lamrim commentaries by Geshe Sopa. Is that helpful? And if you want, you could send it to me and I can have a look to make sure we've got all the stuff. But start with the Lamrim outlines. It's a really easy, condensed guide. And look at those topics. And if you like, go to the topic that you like then. Nobody wants to do the lower realms, okay? Trust me. I get it. My first 10-day course in Buddhism, first 10-day course at Kopan, and I was, this, and I like the meditation, and I like this, and then they would kind of give you a little thing of what's coming, and it was going to be a session on the lower realms. I skipped that session. I had no interest in that whatsoever. I didn't believe in hell realms, and I was like, So if you don't like that part, you skip over it and go to a section that you're interested in. That's okay. Then you can always go back and revisit. It is set in an order. It doesn't matter. Pick a topic you like and get into that. That's fine. Absolutely fine. What was I thinking? Something about, okay, so one thing to know, if you pick up Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, I think you've had study groups with this center, is that correct? Okay, so some of you are familiar with that. Some people here are familiar with Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, okay. So when you pick it up, now there's 2 translations of it. There's a 1-volume Wisdom Publications translation, okay, but there's also a 3-volume one. I tend to like the translation a little better. Sorry that is recorded for my friends at Wisdom, but there's a 3-volume from the organization in North New Jersey, Mahayana and Sutrayana Press. Anyway, a 3-volume version. I just like that translation a little better. It's the same book. It's the same teaching, very profound teaching by Kyabji Pabonka Rinpoche, and written down and translated, written down by his disciple, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's root guru, His Eminence Trijang Rinpoche, who lives today and was living last in Vermont as a lay lama. I went to visit him some years ago. So what you need to know about liberation, if you pick that up, is the beginning of the very beginning of the book, many, many pages describing the lineage lama's depiction. So Lama Tsongkhapa, do we have that? The Lama Tsongkhapa merit field. Do we have that tanka here? Okay, this. So this tanka, the furthest left here, is Lama Tsongkhapa's merit field. And there's a big section in the beginning of Liberation that describes everybody in that picture. Skip that. Okay, don't skip. If you like that and you like the history and you like to learn, it's very inspiring. Okay, but for many people, they start reading it thinking they're getting into the philosophy, and it's very dense, and they're like, "What am I doing in this book?" And then they put the book down. So if that's not resonating with you, skip and get into it, and then you go back and you can read the interesting lives about who they are and where they are. Okay, so when you're reading, skillfully read, where if you're in a section it's too dense and all that and you're struggling, people they put the bookmark in and they never revisit the book. The book sits there on their table, and just get to a new section where it's going to keep you buoyant, keep you going. But that's why I said start with the beginning books first. A beautiful rollout, a gush of the Lamrim is Path to Bliss. That would be great to put on the list. Path to Bliss. It's a commentary by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His Holiness's books are amazing, like a gush of fresh air. But Path to Bliss is more condensed, shorter book, and it's a beautiful book on the Lamrim. So that way you get maybe you'd like that, and you get a little familiarity of it going around in your mind, and like that. And there's a beautiful, anyway, so there's many different Lamrims. And, but there's a reason that Lama Zopa Rinpoche was encouraging people to do more meditation on it. In addition to developing concentration, Shine, in addition to that, it's important. And, but there's a reason, and it really does help to balance the mind. So I can't really stress that enough. I know people get bored and they don't want to do it because we're not familiar with how to do proper analytical meditation. So we have two types of meditation, as many of you know. Shine, or calm abiding, which means you are keeping your mind focused on an object unwaveringly, keeping your mind there, building. It can be an image that you're visualizing, not looking at an image, your eyes are closed and you're bringing the image to mind. Or you can meditate on a topic of the philosophy and develop Shine on that. And that's how we end up with an uncontrived realization of the Lamrim. So initially, as you're going through the Lamrim, and let's say you're meditating on death and impermanence, okay? There's a 9-point death meditation in the Lamrim standard. I've taught that here many times before. 9-point death meditation. So 9 points, you take it slowly. Maybe you do one a day. One a day. Maybe over the course of a month, you do, 2 or 3 days on each of those 9 points. Okay, and what it does is you have an intellectual understanding. You know you're going to die. But the Lamrim meditations, the more and more you do it, creates an experiential realization here where you know you're going to die. Then it changes your life. Okay, then you start reorganizing your priorities, things shifting a little bit. Little more peace in the mind, little bit more awareness in the mind, little bit more kindness to yourself and others. And all those Lamrim topics are like that. The more you do it, so you first end up with what's called a contrived realization of the Lamrim. I mean, you're forcing it, contrived, which means that I have to keep meditating on it on a regular basis to keep that kind of juiciness alive in my mind and heart, to keep that awareness alive there. that I am going to die, I am going to die. I have to keep thinking about it. But it's not automatic yet. I'm forcing it. I'm making it happen over and over. And then eventually you have a realization on it where you're, in a meditation, tears are pouring down your face, whatever, you know. Right? And eventually, when you're applying shine, the calm abiding, over and over, you're penetrating that contrived realization you have to deepen it. And you get a feeling. You get a feeling about it, okay? And then it becomes sort of an uncontrived realization, which really starts shifting your life in a way. And you keep building on that as you deepen your practice, and it creates a much more balanced consciousness. That's how we deal in challenging times. But that's the thing that most students aren't doing, because they start with the Lam Rim, they read, they get bored, and then their program's on TV. So like, I'm going to put this on instead. This is much more exciting, the latest SVU episode, or whatever you watch. I don't know what it is. And then, so it's hard because we're not programmed in that way. Not as exciting as the dazzling game on the video, like that, slowly. So we get bored. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different kind of thing. So through communities and centers like this, we can inspire each other. So remember the buddy system. You're still doing it. So thank you. So we started here, and we were doing this at some other centers, if some of you remember, a buddy system. So I was saying, because there's enough people here in the room, if you want to do, and what happens is some centers have found great benefit in establishing a buddy system, very relaxed, and you could do it here. You meet somebody new. It's nice if you meet someone new, or you have a friend here at the center, and you go, look, let's make a deal for a month. Let's make a deal for a month. You're going to be my buddy, my Dharma buddy, and what we'll do is we're going to engage in this course here at the center, or I found this thing online, Dharma thing I want to do, or let's go through the Lam Rim outlines, or let's just take this topic of the Lam Rim, and let's take a month and let's do our meditations on it. Let's discuss it. Like maybe I have the wrong point that I'm meditating on, and you read this other book, and let's discuss it. And maybe once a week we have coffee, or maybe we don't even meet in person. Maybe you just send me a text message. Did you do your meditation this morning? You guys sort out how you want to do it. Some buddies, people want to do it, and then what you do is you move along and you see, because what Andre was telling me was, some days you don't want to do your practice. And the day got off to a thing, you had an early medical appointment, you had to take somebody, you had to do, and then the rest of the day spun out, and then this, and then you're making dinner for somebody, gone. Nothing happening. But then you get a text from your buddy. And you go, well, and they go, how's your day? Well, I can do a little something. At least do my Vajrasattva in the evening. Like that. So it makes sense? Do we want to do a buddy system? New buddies? New buddies? Because it was nice. We had people raise their hand and they go, I'll be your buddy, and that's how it worked. And people are still meeting today, and they're doing it at other centers. Would people like to do that here? Does it help you do your practice a little bit? Some people are nodding. Some people are like, are you kidding me? Right? But the thing is, it's hard to practice, right? It's hard to get it going. Anybody interested? Who's interested? Put your hand up if you want a buddy. Yay! See, there are some people. Okay. Do you know each other? Do you want to meet each other? And you can, and again, it's your terms of how you want to do it. It's I know people that became friends. They started meeting for coffee. This is like a big part of their life now. They've got this friend, very close friend, like that. Do you both live in North Carolina? Okay, so you want to, okay. So we have one other person wants a buddy. Would somebody like to buddy? One other person? You're going to leave her on her own? I'm sure one person could find. You can have more buddies. Andre'd be a great buddy. Do you want to, wait, anyway, discuss and the rest of you want a buddy. Thank you. But anyway, I found it very beneficial. But again, it's also, even this hesitancy where people don't want to make that commitment. To have like, and so are you making a commitment to your practice? All right, now some of you might be partners and you've already got your buddy that you're doing stuff. Fantastic. And it's great with couples. It's great with couples. Some of them doing incredible work together. And they do it differently. They do it differently. That's fine. But there's definitely this incentive. We're going to go to that program together. Let's do that course together. Let's check out this video tonight and look at that. So again, I'm just suggesting of, you ask me to come and then you show up and you go, I want to know how do I deal with my mind and the challenges, but do you really want to do it? And this is just the way that I would recommend that has seemed to work like that. So a little bit more traditional according to Lama Zopa Rinpoche's style, but I do know that it really does work. So, and then what happens is through the practice of the Lam Rim, the meditations on the Lam Rim, that it is hard to make that space every day. But we do have a life of leisure to some degree. We work, of course we work, many people work, but we're in a leisure society. Can you build that in and think about what are your leisure activities that you're doing, and are they beneficial? And sorry, we have people online, you're not gonna escape the buddy thing. Who wants to be a buddy? Sebastian.
Yeah,
And
we
Rainey,
have,
you're interested?
Rainey and Sebastian.
Rainey and
y'all.
Sebastian, can you guys exchange, can you put it in the context and exchange information? Okay, very nice. And please tell me your name. Lori, okay, thank you very much for the person. You and Andre will, okay. I should make a note and check back with people after how it's going.
Before we started this, I didn't know Liz very well. She's my buddy. I didn't know her very well, but over the years, and it's been years, we've gotten closer and closer, and so it's a really, if you really want to build the community and develop the community, right? And it's a wonderful way to do it. We really get to know one another a little bit, and we're taking responsibility for one another. And which I think is just like really wonderful too, So I'm very happy. What's your name again? Lori. And I'm Andre. I'll give you my card and you can stay in touch, okay?
Yeah, he's a good buddy. That's great. And we got John and Shannon. I'm going to check up on you guys. And the rest of you are going to be jealous, okay? And I have Sebastian and Rainey. Thank you. Go. Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. So anyway, it's just a suggestion of what does help some people, and I know not everybody is interested in that, but it has seemed to be really helpful at different centers and fosters community, because strangers got to know each other. So they were kind of like, wow, I didn't know that, I never would approach that woman, but she was great. And so it's been interesting. So again, it's one way to proceed. So we have Shine meditation, what we think of normally as meditation, focusing my mind on one object and keeping it there stably. And again, it can be a mental image or it can be a topic of the philosophy. The reason we need to develop Shine, there are 9 stages until you have a realization of Shine, till you attain calm abiding, is you need it to get emptiness. You can't have a direct perception of emptiness without having a realization, having that level, that high level of stabilization and concentration. But there's a second meditation we do is analytical. You're analyzing something, okay? So we are well versed in analytical meditation. We just don't know that. But we do it all the time, but we do it in the wrong way, okay? Analytical meditation, we are going to do a meditation later on dealing with a difficult person, because that's what keeps us off balance now. And a lot of people are dealing in their minds with a difficult person or people they see in government or this kind of thing going on, and then we kind of other them, is in dealing with analyzing something, is what we tend to do is and I hear people discussing politics now at times. So what they do is they go around and around a certain person, and this is analytical. They're analyzing, and they'll say, wow, he made that decision, and then this decision, and look at how he talks, and look at what he looks like, and look at this, and this is awful, and this is horrible, and I can't stand to hear his voice, and I can't stand to see the thing, and this, and everything negative, negative, negative. Okay? Until you convince yourself the person is evil, or that the person is awful. Okay? But again, if you remember emptiness, there's no inherent quality of that. Right? Because if they were inherently bad, then what inherent nature means is everyone has to see them that way. That's inherent nature. An inherently existent glass, okay, means it's frozen in time and space. It's always this glass. It's always been this. We don't really have the clear notion about what inherent existence is. We don't hear that a lot, inherent existence. What does that mean? Intrinsic value is a synonym. Concrete existence is a synonym. Independent existence. Independent existence means this glass didn't come from anything else. It's independent of its own character. Okay? It didn't come from sand and glass and materials and no, but that's not how the glass exists. It came from other things. And because it comes from other things, its nature's changing. Okay? Think about this, and I want you to think about this in the break, the lunch break. Try not to blah blah at the lunch break. The lunch break, see everything as a product. Look around the room right now. So what your eye consciousness, I'll say, let's start with the eye consciousness. Visual sense consciousness is in the mind, not in the brain. Visual sense consciousness is in your consciousness, not your brain. Okay? But what your brain does is it has a quality to help the optic nerve see. Optic nerve is matter. That connects with the eye, the organ. That's part of your body, not your mind. But what runs this is the visual sense consciousness in your mind. And that's why we interpret things differently, because it's what's in our mind again. What karmic seeds are in the mind that have some people unable to see certain colors, that have some people unable to determine when they look at something whether they like it or don't like it. Eye consciousness. If you just look around the room now, just your eye, the organ, moved by the sense consciousness, visual sense consciousness, and look around the room at all the things you're seeing, beautiful colors and different things, and notice how everything comes from something else. So in a sense, you're seeing everything is a product of something else. And let me know if you find something in the room right now that is not a product of something else. And those of you online, you can look around your space. Anybody see anything that's not a product? Let me know, please. When you think about space. So space, and space is one of the things on one level where they might call it, this is slightly different what we're talking about, they might call it, it's one thing that can be seen as unchanging as far as the image of, what, 2-dimension or 3-dimension. Like that part doesn't change necessarily. But as far as space in this room is changing because it's made up of molecules moving in a very fast configuration. So that's coming from different molecules of space, if you're talking about air space, like that. I mean, that's what Tibetan Buddhism would say about that kind of space, like that. Is that what you meant? Or do you have an...
I wasn't really thinking of air so much as more, space as what things pop up in.
Yes. I mean, so there is the nature of what they'll say of 3 unchanging things. Well, we're not talking about changing and unchanging, but you could. And so the space from which, like there's 2-dimension, but then there's 3-dimension that allows things to arise in that space. And sometimes they'll say that is not a changing phenomena. But, you really have to think about it. Because we'd say, but if the thing arises in the space, it changes, but the ability for it to arise, that necessarily doesn't change. The same thing is a generic image of something. Technically, they say doesn't change. A generic image. I'll give you an example. If I say to you, car, just the word car, there's something in your mind that arises. Now, over time, in the 60s, your car may have been different than the car is now. Let's say, if you were around in the 60s, okay? But again, when you say generic image car, there's an image, and so they would say that's an unchanging phenomena, like that. So a few things, but as far as is space a product of other things, it could come from, and they say even space has sides and dimensions, a top and bottom, a left side, a right side, things like that, and that would come from other shifts in that space. Technically. So that's an interesting one. Yeah, it's a nice one, space. And the space in the room, for me, would be products of, I mean, again, I'm thinking products of molecules that would be moving in a certain configuration that create a space for us to be in this room, like that. They might say in Tibetan Buddhism. But if you have other views on that too, I'd be interested to hear. Other things you find that are not a product, let's say?
I'm just wondering, why is a car non-changing? Did I hear you right?
I'm talking about the generic image of car. So in your mind, you get...
You just see it all the time, you're saying?
Yeah, generic, and we're just talking about a generic image. If somebody says pen, somebody says car, somebody says house, there's images in the mind that image alone doesn't change in the mind. It just arises like that. But that doesn't relate to what's a product and what isn't a product. Yeah, that's a different topic, basically. That's why I just brought that in relation to space. Yes? Or anyone online? How are we doing online? And are there other questions related to what I've been talking about this morning? I wanted to make some time for questions, please. Okay, everybody okay? So in your break time at lunch...
This isn't a question, but another student online did say she wants a buddy. She lives in California, so if someone's willing to have a
we have another
long-distance buddy.
You can be long distance. And who is that?
Lisa. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Lisa.
Thivierge. Lisa, are we doing your name any benefit there? Okay, Lisa, where are you in California? If you want to unmute, maybe she went to the bathroom.
I'm on mute. No, I'm sorry. Hi. You did a beautiful job with my name. It's very difficult. I'm in Santa Rosa, California.
Okay, Northern California. I was just thinking if I know. Anyway. Okay, so is there anyone online and anybody here that would like to buddy with Lisa? And we could also put Lisa together with Lori. That's another option. Okay, so Lisa, or do you want to, anyway, so, okay. But if you want, you can also contact, because you guys do live near each other, which can be a benefit. And Lisa, why don't we, if you can get Lisa and Lori, their emails connected, and then you guys can decide. Thank you, Lisa. So we'll put you
thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
we'll
you.
Put you together with Lori. So again, you're in 3-hour time difference and stuff can be tricky, but you never know. We'll see.
I work Eastern hours.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. That sounds great.
It's all good. Thank you.
Great. Make my little update here. Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay. So when you take your lunch break, again, continue to discuss, again, if everything is a product, we're looking at that. And so again, the 2 types of meditation, and please discuss things from the morning. The 2 types of meditation, when we get into analytical meditation, so what we're doing is what I was saying is, you analyze somebody until you don't like them. That's analytical meditation, but it's not focused on anything virtuous. Okay, but we do it all the time. The other thing is that, so that's when anger and hatred gets activated. The other way we do analytical meditation is in the face of attachment and desire. Somebody that you are completely attached to. Mostly, it's our kids are the biggest attachment that we have. Biggest attachment, and you over-exaggerate their qualities, correct? And you can't see clearly with your kids. I mean, it's very hard not to have attachment to your kids. It's very, very difficult. The lamas always say that, okay? But let's take another person. And those of you, if you remember, and I've talked about this before, years ago, I could say, we do have some younger people here. Years ago, if you remember when you fell in love with somebody and you had an attraction to someone, and all the over-embellishment of that person, their eyes and their hair, and the voice was perfect, and their body was great, and you loved the clothes they wore, and then he said this, and she did that, and that's analytical meditation. You analyze from every angle to convince yourself that the person is perfect, and then the desire gets activated, attachment gets activated. It's not a beneficial way to do it. Use that technique to meditate on the Lam Rim. So that with the death meditation, you come from every angle. I'm definitely going to die. There's no power in the universe that will stop death from coming to me. I'm definitely going to die. Death is definitely coming. There's nothing I can do. And you go through those meditations, or you look at Precious Human Rebirth, and you take some of those points. The fact that a Buddha existed, I live in a world system, I can freely, openly practice Dharma, practice Buddhism. A Buddha existed. Shakyamuni Buddha lived 2,600 years ago. Look at this center. Okay, if he didn't exist, none of this would be here. There would be no stupa. There would be no statues of a Buddha anywhere. There would be no Buddhist books. There would be no Dalai Lama. I would not be a nun. No Lama Zopa Rinpoche. None of these images in the room would exist. No prayer flags. No banners. None of that would, like, imagine your world devoid of that. And you go over and over that in your mind. You imagine no Kadampa Center. Geshe Geluk wouldn't be here. Geshe Sangpo wouldn't be here. There'd be no pictures of nuns on that outside wall. You wouldn't be a nun. Probably wouldn't even be here, right? But you have to soak your mind in it. Like, can you start with 15, 20 minutes? Over and over. That's your object of meditation. The mind's going to go off. You're going to go, oh, I want to do this other thing. I want to go have a chocolate milkshake. Nope. Back. Over and over. Seeing the world devoid of Buddhism. Over and over and over. Devoid of Buddhism. No FPMT. No centers in the States. Nothing like that. No, over and over. And then you come back to, I have the Dharma, like the Buddha did exist. Come back, and then a little bit of rejoicing in that, and you have to do it over and over to realize, I have this precious human I have the Dharma right here down the street. For those of you that live in this area, right here online. I can just sit at my kitchen table, boom, Dharma pops up. All the teachings are online now. Everybody's online. A cardinal, my favorite bride. Thank you. Hello. I love them. Oh, he's looking at me. We have some where I live in Philadelphia, right behind, and they don't migrate. So they all winter, and you get the snow, and then there's big red guy right there. I know their sound and everything, and so a friend bought me cardinal socks with cardinals and an apron with cardinals. It's a little over the top, okay, but so sweet. It's a state bird in North Carolina. That's why I like coming here, okay. So again, this is analytical meditation, and it's hard for us. In the beginning, it is boring. Westerners say, okay, I'm gonna die. Okay, I got it. I'm sorry, you have to hang in there with it. And it starts shifting. I'm not kidding. It's really, I've done it. It's really hard to do, but eventually something juicy happens. And all of a sudden, each of those topics, you go, another one is, we are free. This is a freedom. Of the 8 freedoms, 4 of them are you're free from different non-virtuous realms of existence. We're in the human realm. There's 6 realms of cyclic existence, as many of you know. We're in the human realm. That's the bottom of the upper realms, human realm. So we're free from being long life gods. Those are the upper realms. There's a jealous God realm and there's a hedonistic God realm. Now you might say, but the hedonistic God realm sounds pretty nice. It's all pleasure. What's wrong with that? Okay? If you don't have any suffering in your life, right? No incentive to practice Dharma. So it's not a good realm to go in. You burn up all your merit really quickly. End up in, okay, so human, we have a balance. Suffering and leisure. Perfect. You've got every opportunity here. This is the best realm to get enlightened from. Then you go to the lower realm. So let's say top of the lower realm, you're free from being an animal. Okay, cardinals look great. And so Geshe Gelek, many years ago, I was running Milarepa Center, Vermont. He came up. We invited him. Geshe was so cute. He really wanted to go to Canada. First time, he'd never been to Canada. So he had his real ID, and he said, he goes, I'd like to go to Canada. You know, he'd only been here at that time around 11 years, right? So we took him to Canada on the snowiest snowstorm day of the year. It was like blizzard, like what we, went to Canada in our old Subaru Forester all-wheel drive with studded snow tires, and off we went to Canada, and we had a great day, wonderful day. We visited this Benedictine monastery, went through the little town. It was so fun. And then when he got there, and I didn't know him that well, and I said, I said, Geshe, 11 years you've been in the States, and North Carolina is very different than Sarah Monastery. Having visited Sarah Monastery, so I said, Geshe, it must have been very, a little bit challenging in the beginning. And he said, oh, yes. It was so cute with his eyes wide, and he said, oh, yes. And then he said a student came up in the beginning, maybe I'm revealing too much, but he told this publicly. A student came in the beginning and said right away when he came, oh, Geshe, please, can you tell me, I would like a mantra to recite so I can come back as a cat. And so for the Tibetans, to come back as an animal, like you're nuts. And so he said to me, this student right away said, can we have a mantra? I mean, we don't know. We don't know when we start practicing Dharma. We don't understand. It's fine. Can I have a mantra? I could come back as a cat. And then Geshe looked at me and he said, can you imagine? Like he just couldn't fathom, it's just amazing. So again, animal realm. Now, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave a teaching once. I was scared out of my socks. I was sitting next to a longtime student and both of us left the teaching and we're like, we better practice. So Rinpoche gave a teaching about the animal realm. And we've heard this teaching many times before, and you go, yeah, I don't want to be an animal. Okay, I have it here. I don't have it here. And he gave this teaching, and he just kept repeating over and over in this really scary voice. If your mind is in the mind of that animal for even a second, Rinpoche's like, you completely freak out. You completely freak out. And he kept saying it over and over. He goes, you want that? So again, imagine and look at the way animals eat in the wild. Look at the way they're constantly, can you imagine eating that way? Constantly looking over, something's going to come down and swoop down and eat you. Constantly. You see animals in the wild. It's a constant, that's where most of the animals live in the wild, not your pets, sleeping in the nice cushy little bed with the blanket over them. That's the top of the animal realm. Service animals, they're the peak. They're the very top, okay? So, but that's not most of the animal realm. Most animals live in the sea, and they're being eaten, and they're eating other animals. They're eating tons of animals. They're killing each other. And then you see out in the one, you see the insect realm. Oh my God, you have to be an ant. You get another dead piece of an animal, and you're carrying it off to, like that's but so you in your meditation. Like we laugh now, it is funny, but in the meditation, you be an animal, 20 minutes. Be your cat for 20, but meaning you look out of the cat's eyes. You're low to the ground. Look at what scares cats. Look at dogs when fireworks go off, completely freaked out. We're going, oh, fireworks, how great. And the dog is halfway under the bed, okay? So you be that animal for 20 minutes. Walk around. Look at cats. Look what they lick. Look what they eat. Cat food is disgusting, right? Look what they eat. Look what they're afraid of. What do they think about all day? We were just talking about in the car ride over, George Carlin. Remember George Carlin? I wonder what dogs do on their day off. They can't lie around. That's their job. Animals, dogs and cats, they sleep like 20 hours a day, right? Sluggishness comes from ignorance and laziness, and even though some animals are working animals and abused beyond any. But you have to be that animal and walk around in that skin and the fur and whatever you're doing and ice cold water and what they're like. So you have to be that being over and over. Soak your mind in that until you realize, like, I don't want to be in that realm, and I need to do my Dharma practice. Move it into your Dharma practice. It's essential. So that's Lamrim meditation. I can't stress it enough, but that's how we want to use analytical meditation on the Lamrim. So I know it's not exciting, and I wanted the bells and whistles, and I want all the lights to go off, and I want to take the blue pill, and I want to be enlightened like that. That's not this path. Then find another path. That's not this path. But this path is genuine, it's authentic, it will free your mind. It will free your mind. It will make you ultimately happy, regardless of what's going on in the environment around you. And then it enables you to be bigger, broader, more expansive, to help more beings that are struggling like that. Because this is samsara. Everybody's going to be struggling. That's its nature. That's its nature. Make sense? Other questions? Okay. So once again, thinking about the beginning again, and we'll talk more about this after the break, is you've got to get that established practice started. Sit somewhere. Again, let's be practical. I've mentioned this before. If you have a small space you're sitting in and the only place is your bed, try to sit in a different direction than you sleep. Because what happens in the bed is I get in the bed, it's great. I think I'll just do my meditation, I'll just lie down. You're going to be out. It's not a great position to sit in. Get used to a regular sitting posture if you can, in a chair or on a cushion, doesn't matter. But in the chair, don't lean too much against walls and back. Your back doesn't get strong. It's not a great posture to be leaning back too much. So try. If you have physical things, you try a little bit and then get yourself comfortable. You can use cushions and get a shawl if it's winter and you feel cozy. You want to make it inviting. Slowly, you might have a little altar space or a little table. You light a candle or you learn how to do the water bowls. You learn the significance, because that's about offerings, making offerings. Making offerings increases your prosperity. That's how it works, generosity. First, perfection. And it's a flow from which all the Dharma comes. Everything flows from the generosity. Helps you practice Dharma. So you can learn. And there's, again, a practice booklet on how to set up an altar. Right? And if you want, you keep it simple. Or if you want something more elaborate, but don't make it all about that I set up my nice altar, but I'm not doing any practice. The point is to practice. The altar should support that, not be the only thing you're doing, like that. So then you get the practice going and make sure there's the meditation posture, relaxation, relax into it. Meditation comes organically from a relaxed space, okay? Set a good motivation, right? If you want, do some sort of pranayama, like 9-round breathing. We can do that this afternoon. We didn't start with that, but it's a really nice way to just clear out the subtle channels. 9-round breathing. Then if you'd like, a lot of people just want to focus on the breath, build some shine, or choose an image on which to meditate. Choose an image on which to meditate. We can do some of that this afternoon or tomorrow morning as well, tomorrow afternoon. I'll give a little bit longer thing on shine and how we're trying to guide the mind. We'll try to do a little session on that to build calm abiding. Okay, but if you pick it, so one thing you can think about at lunch, choose a mental image that you're going to meditate on. A mental image, meaning we close our eyes and you're going to bring that image to mind. In our tradition, we tend to meditate on an image of the Buddha. Why? It uplifts the mind. Tibetan Buddhism says leaves a virtuous imprint on the mind. Okay? But if you like that, if you're not used to an image of the Buddha and you go, it's very detailed and I'm not getting all the details, you start with the face of the Buddha. Start with the eyes. Knowing the body's there, but you close your eyes and you just bring that Buddha face to mind. And slowly over time, you start adding details. Perfectly fine. Or you go, I can't visualize anything. That's common. I can't visualize, okay? Pick something you're very familiar with. I started with an apple. I was so familiar with an apple, that was common. I could bring an apple to mind. I could get that going. Start with that. It doesn't matter what your object is. Don't obsess about the object. You can get shine on anything. It's really from your mind side how I'm on the object and how clearly I'm bringing the details into focus. That's what it's about. And you're playing between those two. My mind is on my object. I'm focused there, keeping the mind calmly there. And another part, sharpening the intensity of the details, bringing it more clearly into focus. Our mind's able to do those two things at the same time. So come back with an object in your mind, and we'll bring it to mind, one object. Keep it simple if you'd like. And so some people like to do that in the morning. The mind's a little fresher. They want to do some concentration, and they build that. And you might, on the side, read the sections on Shine in the Lam Rim of what are the different stages. Initially, you can barely keep your mind on the object, right? It's very common. It's okay. You just keep going. Then I can hold it a little bit, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. Great. Then I'm holding it. Then there's a gap. I lose the focus. I distract. Back. And then you're getting a little bit more time on the object. Okay? And then eventually I've got stages 3 and 4. I still have some gaps. Now, stage 4, I start patching the gaps, holding the concentration longer, holding it longer, building that familiarity slowly, like that. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort. So then you'd build that, and then you'd go into, maybe you read some inspiring prayer that works for you, build that in at some point. Some people might have daily commitments that they need to do. And one thing that's set up, I've mentioned this many times before, the Shakyamuni Buddha practice booklet. Can you put that on the list? To Shakyamuni Buddha practice booklet, FPMT shop again, little booklet you download, you can travel with it, it's very small, but everything is outlined in there as far as a preliminary practice. And those are still practices that advanced practitioners do. But what it is your basic guru yoga practice. And guru yoga, I'm yoking myself, I'm bonding myself to a highly realized being. Really, guru really is spiritual teacher, but on one level, it's kind of the absolute highest level of your own voice, inner voice. That's what we want to yoke ourselves to. That level of virtuous goodness, fundamental goodness, Buddha nature. Okay, Guru Yoga. So the most fundamental one is this Shakyamuni Buddha practice in that book. It's very simple. Visualize the Buddha, and you do some inspiring prayers like the 7-limb prayer. You could read a Lam Rim prayer, the foundation of all good qualities that's in that booklet. It has motivations, it has dedications, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. You don't have time, you skip to the next thing. And you learn what that prayer is about. Then you get used to that. Then you skip to the next thing. I'm going to do that. And you can start it in the morning. You don't have time to finish. Leave it. Take the Buddha with you all day on the crown of your head. Great. All day I do my activities. I come back and I'll finish the booklet and do the dedications. Wonderful, right? It can be a longer practice. It can be more condensed if you don't have time. So some sort of practice like that. And because of the foundation of all good qualities, the Lam Rim, one Lam Rim prayer, then you build your Lam Rim meditation and you read a verse, whatever verse you're meditating on, you read through that verse, and then I meditate on that verse, what I've learned, what I have in my Lam Rim outlines next to me. I'm going to read that, 15, 20 minutes, do the meditation, then read the rest of the prayer, absorb, I might recite some mantras of Shakyamuni Buddha, absorb the Buddha, feel the blessings in me, dedicate. It's a whole practice. Make sense? Are we communicating? So, and then you can get support from the center of how do I put this together? And you can ask questions. You can ask, you can figure out, well, I got this going, but now I'm a little confused. And that's how we build the practice. We've got to do, basically that's the buoyant cushion that's going to help us through all the challenging times, regardless of what's going on outside. And then again, that big motivation, constantly keeping the bodhicitta motivation activated. Okay, so let's stop there for our lunch break. Okay, so think about this in lunch break. Discuss with other people. I've got this practice. I'm doing this Guru Yoga. Then you can advance the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga. There's other things, but discuss with each other what got you going, what's the hindrance to you, what's not working. A little bit like that. So let's dedicate whatever positive energy we've created from doing these practices. May they benefit our practices that will support our healthy, spacious, loving hearts and minds, so we can hopefully progress along a path to Buddhahood as quickly as possible, because so many beings need our help right now, and then we can do it unlimitedly and perfectly. Thank you. So we will meet again in about an hour and a half, is that right?
Yeah,
Great.
at 2 o'clock.
So maybe a little after, we're a little late, right? Or roughly?
2:05.
Okay. 2:05. Thank you. Thank you so much. And those online, see you soon.
And those online, I'll close out Zoom, but just sign in again on the same link. If you're here in the Gampa, come back a little early from lunch so we can be ready.